think civil society has a moral responsibility to drive digitalization in your work that does not treat harms as unintended consequences or as afterthoughts.
It is encouraging to see that many of us bravely challenge now power within as much as power between actors in the sector. That we seek equitable power distributions and partnerships. We reflect on old versus new power movements, and we dive deep into new challenges like those related to digital access.
I really think Global Perspective was timely in terms of really situating the conversations on issues around power, issues around privilege, issues around shifting power. So I really think it was a great space.
I think it's about putting human being, putting people first and at the front line of technology, digitalization and AI. I learned that we can demystify and simplify technology, digitalization and AI, and that we have to work together because it is too big of a thing for one organization or anybody to tackle.
For us to truly be courageous, we must also change our relationship gradient between the people, our desires to impact there, and also ourselves. There's that gradient of money and decision making is extremely steep.
As I see it, the way to challenge the powerful forces is for the local CSOs across the regions to come together to advocate for the rights of the marginalized communities. In a struggle to reclaim our power, we must first organize ourselves. We must take the risks to challenge the large, well-endowed INGOs to take our agenda, the local issues and concerns forward, and not their agenda.
The conversations were insightful. I really enjoyed a lot of the learnings that came out of the online sessions. I also particularly enjoyed the physical session that we had here in the Nairobi Hub. I think it had been a while since we were able to sit in a room like that and have actual intimate conversations where we exchange ideas.
Pero, haciendo una evaluación del desarrollo de los proyectos, de cada $100 que llevaban al país, por lo menos 89 se quedaban en el camino. ¿Sí? Era un proyecto en el Pacífico y lo primero que hacían era contratar o arrendar el superedificio en Bogotá. ¿Sí? Honorarios desordenados para consultores, pero para llevar la ayuda al consejo comunitario, a la vereda, es lo mínimo, como digo.
I think we've been talking about decolonization of aid for a while now. And of shifting the power. But I think for me, just listening to some of the local organizations speak, there's already plenty that is happening for them to exercise their power, the power they have, without waiting for it to come from somewhere else. There's a huge responsibility for especially international organizations to kind of support and facilitate that already emerging leadership.
An ideal world where there's no aid is a world where our economies are working, our development models are defined by indices that actually reflect on the lived experiences of citizens, and number 3, where those resources are actually generated from our economy so that we are not being controlled by an external force. For me, the most exciting thing I've had is that INGOs are already beginning to have internal conversations about how to decolonize their own funding, how to decolonize their own operations within their organizations. And the fact that they're not just speaking to themselves, they're also extending that conversation to the people they work with.
To be honest, co-design, whilst absolutely agree is a very important principle, and akin to the concept of walking beside people. We talk a lot about walking beside First Peoples, walking beside victims of violence and abuse, walking beside marginalised and vulnerable communities, but we would argue that we actually don't know how to do that. The dispossessed understand what it might mean to walk alongside, but paternalism and colonial mindsets are so pervasive that we actually only understand walking alongside from the context of power and privilege and being forever the leader. And so before we can walk alongside, we actually need to learn to walk behind and to be led. And that's a process that is ongoing for us at the moment.
I come with a provocation. I come to inspire you to think about how we can recalibrate, how we can work different, how we can think different, how we can act different, and think about a decolonized ICSO that truly abandons the charity mindset. It acknowledges the agency of the communities for which it serves, and it stops looking at them as mere beneficiaries.
For me, the biggest level of power is the ability of these groups of people to use the resources that have become available to them as seed capital, as grants for their work.
Power to me is freedom. Power, freedom. Power is justice.